Good afternoon, friends and neighbors. We are filming episode 19 of the Disaster Podcaster today, coming at you on October 5th. Fall has started. It's still in the 80s, I believe, Toby.
It is warm.
It's warm. So we have a really, really good episode today. We're going to do a little build up. We have a guest on. An industry icon, and this person will not like that moniker, but I will guarantee you this person is changing the game, has paid his dues, has put a lot into it. He's a good friend, and he is going to add a whole lot of value. So I hope you are chiming in live with us today, and if not, catch it on either YouTube or the podcast, and you're going to want to share it with your friends because we're going to be talking about some things that I think they're going to resonate with everybody.
Yep.
So we'll be right back. We'll introduce our guest, and we'll have a great little segment. Cool. We are back. And look, Chris Laney. Chris Laney is our guest today. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Look at that king's chair, that captain chair, man. That is sweet.
Big baller status.
Just an old lazy boy.
Oh, lazy boy. They don't make them like that anymore, do they?
15 years old. You know?
15. Well, as everybody can see here, we've got Chris Laney with water out of Fort Wayne and a lot of things, and you've got myself and Toby today. So Chris and I were having a conversation last week on the phone, and we were just hitting all kinds of really great topics. And I said, hold on. This is a podcast, dude. And, of course, after that, he's like, yeah, I've only been on 2 podcasts, but the ones you've been on are epic. I mean, our buddy Jarrett, the beard, he's hunting this week, isn't he, in Wyoming?
He is, and he's a happy man right now. He's doing well. So
he's
pictures are showing that he's doing well. So he's happy.
He's among his people. I don't think you need a lot of introduction, but I'm going to go ahead and do that for the 1 or 2 people in the industry that just don't know who you are yet. Chris Laney, besides being a very close friend of mine, and it co-owns Water Out in Fort Wayne, Indiana, with his wife Angie. Both incredible people, dedicated to this industry inside and out. Chris is also an instructor with Chuck Dewald at the Dewald Drying Academy. Working diligently to try to spread the knowledge of E3 into the minds of restorers everywhere, and having great success. Love what you guys are doing over there. So, and I guess the other throw in is this year, as you've grown into some of your teaching, because I think that's your passion, is you taught a couple, 4 or 5 classes with Ben with Enlightened Restoration Solutions?
Yes.
Is that going to continue, or is that just a spotlight thing, or is that going to continue on?
No, I think we'll continue to do it next year. Here at the end of the year, we both had some things on our plate, so it didn't work out on our dates here at the end of the year. But yeah, we're going to put some dates together and do the same thing next year. Nice.
Well, let me just tell everybody real quick where you and I met. I mean, this is not about us, but I'll just a little bit of context. Was this around 2016, 2017?
I think it was closer to probably 2014 or 15.
Could have been.
When was Bend, Oregon?
Bend, Oregon was in
2015.
16. So it was probably a little before that. So we met on LinkedIn. We had this movement that was kind of starting to murmur, which later became the Restoration Rebels. And, we just had a virtual world on LinkedIn having these conversations. There was a lot of agreement, a lot of unity. Yourself, me, Andy McCabe, Ben Justinson was one of those, Blaine. A couple of us had that. Yep. And I don't know, lo and behold, somebody had the great idea, why don't we get all together in one room with all these ideas and see where this goes? And it was in Bend, Oregon. I
remember Jarrett was there. Kevin Dooley was there.
Kevin Dooley.
A couple guys there.
OP.
Yeah, OP was there, but we're just a bunch of guys that had just seen the challenges that TPAs coming into our industry had brought to all of us as restoration contractors at that point since Sandy happened, and
Yeah.
um, it was just, I think, independent guys finally feeling some of that pinch. I think some other guys in the industry that were on the programs felt it sooner than we did,
Mhm.
but I think we started to feel it, and that's when we started to kind of voice some of our concerns on LinkedIn together.
I think the fact, as long as we're talking about, and we're not here, guys, today to bash programs and TPAs. I think that ship has sailed and it's going where it goes. But I think what the big issue was is those of us that choose not to be part of those programs and members of programs and TPAs, we're still affected by the processes that are. I mean, it really affects our entire industry, whether you're on them or not. So that's why we care. Some people might say, if you're not on the programs, why don't you just leave it alone? Because it really is eroding the value of what we do in this industry. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it creates, so my company, 20 years in business, never been on a program, and so for us, we get the TPAs that are reviewing our claims, or the adjusters that are reviewing our claims, they're looking at them through the same lens and this as the agreements that have been made with these contractors before the work was done. And they're agreements that we wouldn't typically agree to, and have never agreed to, but are willing to have conversations. But um, we haven't found an agreement that fits what we feel is right for the project every single time. And so at that point, we've stepped away from them and just been independent. But on the review process, they review those claims that same way, and um, we bill for exactly what we do, and that's it. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I think
we walk through it.
I don't. I just heard what you just said. I don't. I don't know that there could be an agreement that's beneficial to both sides because their business model, just like ours, depends on profit, but we actually have the cost incurred, the liability, and the risk involved. So I don't know that we can get there. But listen, I'm willing to keep trying. I don't make enemies of anyone.
Yeah,
We'll keep trying.
no, I don't either. We just haven't found one yet, right? And that's okay.
You haven't looked hard enough,
We
Chris.
might go, we might go another 20. Well, we're blessed to be busy, and I got a great team around me, so I'm a lucky guy in that sense.
You do. You got a nice business, a nice building. You got a great flood house that you have a lot of fun with. You do some real unique stuff with your flood house, and that has led into you're teaching it. Tell us about going to work and teaching at Dewald. Is teaching something you've always wanted to do, or did that just kind of like pop into your head one day?
I always enjoyed, back to the days of going to the HydroLab with Kurt Bolden down there. I spent a lot of time down there with him, and I always enjoyed the testing side of it, the research side of it, trying to figure out the why, and of why things were occurring the way they were inside the environment. When we applied different things, what was actually occurring and what was happening, and it goes back to Charlie Cressy, 20 years ago when he first started and brought what he brought to the industry. And those two guys were my mentors, and I owe a ton to those guys. And so I enjoyed that classroom setting with Kurt. I enjoyed being there with him, doing those things. And then eventually, once I met Chuck, and he kind of opened the curtain for me and showed me exactly what he'd been working on for 15, 20 years. And the light bulb went off. It was everything that I had been looking for. It was the answers that we tested against and tried to figure out that we couldn't get to, and we never did. And it was funny because probably 3 years ago when we met, we were both kind of probably at a different spot than we are today with our headspace, and we were once we kind of found each other on the idea of what he had, and kind of a vision we put together, an agreement we made between the two of us. It kind of, it fueled me back into doing what we do and teaching the industry, and just teaching the right way based off of science and math. The thing that we for years tried to figure out, he had, he nailed it. Took him a long time, but he's a genius, and he did it. So
I'm watching you two from afar. I visited. I haven't gone to the full blown class. I visited one day while I was in Indy for a reason, and I'm watching you two, and there's always a connection. I see you having a whole lot of fun and enjoying the hell out of it, and therefore the results are great. Anything that you feel passionate about and you're actually having a good time, that usually gets passed along to the students and the attendees. So I have clients, I have friends that have been to the class, just loved it. Some that have gone 2 or 3 times and loved it. And I think that's just a testament. I know Chuck as well, actually wearing his hat today. That was kind of like a little precursor to people guessing who might have been on here. But, I know you much better, but I've gotten to know Chuck, and he is deceivingly and deceptively smart. And I think that's one thing I always take away is that. So, but, going back
he's just an average hillbilly from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Now, he thinks the smartest people all come from Tennessee, but, it's debatable, but he is deceptively smart. But, I give the guy credit. He's told me a few times. His dad told me to my face when I finally got the opportunity to meet his dad, which is an awesome guy, and a lot of credit we owe to him as well. But he said Chuck wrote down on a napkin he wanted to be the guy that knew more about science of drying than anybody else in the world. And I truly believe I haven't been in a room and listened to anybody or watched anybody that understands it the way he understands it. And he's a great teacher. He's a great wealth of knowledge, and it's pretty cool what we're having the opportunity to do together.
It's a testament to something I talk about sometimes is the one thing. Find the one thing that you can focus on and you can be remarkable and change the game and that you enjoy to do. Just push away all the other BS in the back and just focus on that one thing, and it'll take you places. And it sounds like Chuck has done that, and it sounds like you are probably right there with him and having a great time. And I'm just proud of you doing it, man, because I'm watching you, and I'm really proud of you stepping away from, I say stepping away. Your business is running itself to where it allows you to do this. And I think that's very important that we run businesses that aren't jobs. They are a means to allow us to have a more impact on more people. And I think that's what you're doing.
Yeah, I couldn't, first and foremost, I couldn't do it without my wife. She's my rock in every aspect, and she's been on the ride for 20 years. I don't know why, but she has. And, I wouldn't be able to step away from that place if she wasn't willing to do what she does. And it starts with her. And we got people that have been with us 10, 15 years through this, the journey of our small company here in Fort Wayne. And they, they've done a remarkable job. And when I made the decision to not step away from it, because at any point that I'm not on the road, I'm working in that, working there. Yeah. But knowing that it was going to take, probably 2 weeks, a month off of my plate where I couldn't do anything, was a big step. And our team this year has really been the first full year, and they'll probably execute better than I ever did in the last 19 years on just about everything. And that says a lot. So I think
that's actually a very.
I need to take the next 2 weeks, and then I'll just be done, and then they'll do better the next year. So we'll see.
You bring up a really interesting point that we hear the opposite of, and it's because you've been in business for 20 years that you can finally get to the place where you can acknowledge that your people often can do things better than you can. And from a business perspective, that's a huge step. Because a lot of the people we work with are trying to get to that point, but they're still stuck that they're the best ones in their company, and that's such a limiting belief.
Yeah, I think Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and some of those others would tell you that hire the right people, put them in position, show them what to do, make sure they see the vision, get the fuck out of their way.
Yeah, 100%.
If you're the smartest guy in the room at your business, you need to hire some different people.
Right. Well, and if you
saying that and believing it is two different things. Saying it and believing it is two different things.
Our industry.
It's hard. It takes time. It does not happen overnight. Right. I mean, I can't. We started this business. I was 22. I just turned 22 years old.
You had hair then?
My wife was 21.
Did you have hair?
I had hair. I had a little part right here.
Oh.
Cool. But
bleach blonde tips?
No, I never went there. No, thank you. I was not into Eminem and his little bleach blonde tips back in the early 2000s. But it does. It takes time. It does not happen overnight. We built the business based off of relationships, and it was relationships with our own employees, and it was relationships with people that could refer us work, and
That's another
wanted to
huge.
work with a company that had a vision like we did, and we weren't the perfect fit for everybody, right? I mean, I'm not on the insurance side of the ball game, I'm probably not the most liked guy in Fort Wayne, Indiana, but it's interesting because the back end of that same comment is when they say that we're the most expensive drying company in Fort Wayne, they say, but they do the best work. Right. So, do we make mistakes? Absolutely. Do we fix them? Absolutely. Are we perfect every time? No, never will be. But we strive. My team strives for it, and they kick butt, and it's on them. They do a great job.
Chris, that's a great segue into the next thing I had written here, and this is again something you and I were talking about, and it patience, having patience in business. You and I are both, when we can, we're active in some different forums and chat groups and restoration based groups on LinkedIn as well, and love them or hate them, we're contributing to those with some sound information. You just said relationships. I think you and I are both usually racing the checkered flag to see who can to say that to first. But
right.
I notice a lot of younger restorers, and it probably has more to do with the culture we live in with the instant gratification. But I see a lot of people that are putting expectations on themselves and their team for having success or even incredible success of a business in 1 to 3 years. And I don't know that we've evolved in society that much where it's just not true. You still have a lot of mistakes to make. You mentioned that you pay dumb tax. You're going to lose a lot of money. You're going to hire the wrong people. You're going to take the wrong customers. You're going to zig when you should have zagged. And, of course, we just had COVID happen. But I watch a lot of people that have these expectations that I've been in business 3 years and I'm not making it. I'm a failure. I'm going to close down the shop. Or then they start asking, hey, what does everybody do? And I just think that it's fair to tell everybody, you're no different now than it was 20 years ago. To build something great, I put a number on it, Chris, and you can tell me what you think. I think it takes 10 to 12 years to have a fundamental, foundational infrastructure, the right people, having made the mistakes, make enough profit to where you can circle the airport a few times with a tank of gas to really let go and then start getting picky on what you do. What are your thoughts on some of that?
So I would say it was, at the 10 to 12 year mark for our company, I wasn't on every single job, but I was on every single job probably up until 8 years. I was on every single project, saw them from phone call through collections. I went out on calls. I, did a lot of those things. So you got to grind. It takes some time. Lower your overhead. Don't worry about having the best and the most beautiful building. Get relationships. One guy was asking me at the school the other day. He's like, Chris, how much money do I need for equipment? I said, 0. You need a net 30 from a rental supplier is what you need. He said, because I don't have a bunch of cash. And I said, okay, well then go build some relationships with some people that got the equipment that you need. And when you get that first job, call those guys, deliver the equipment, put it on the job, make a little bit, now go do another one, and just little by little by little. It takes time. Yep. And if not, you just if you have the ability, you're going to be in, you might have to draw on some debt and do some of those things. But it took us years to build that sustainable business and building out a sales force that we had the financial ability to invest in and give them the opportunity to do what they needed to do, and understand that team that was out building those daily relationships. We always say it to a new person that comes on: don't plan on getting a job. If you've never, salespeople that have started for us, that we haven't had a lot of them, but the first time, if they've never done it before, we basically will say to them, when you go out, wait 6 months before you can expect your first lead. It takes that much time for us to really build the sustainable relationships the way we want them, with the people that we want them with,
Right.
that we can do business with for years to come. And so, a lot of guys, I think, they feel like because of that instant gratification of a pay-per-click or an internet lead,
Yep.
or any of those types of things, that's what's going to build their business. Maybe it can, but internet leads in our business are running in the 4 to 7%
Yeah.
of the leads that come into our business, and they're the lowest closing rate lead that we currently have. And so we take them with a grain of salt, we file them through, and we take care of those clients just like we would anybody else if they work into the process, right? But some of those pay-per-clicks is not going to be, I don't feel like, a long-term. And a lot of those guys that I've talked to that I work with in my business, they say those same things too.
Same thing.
They say, we have to be a piece of your overall pie.
Yeah.
We can't be 50% of your leads. Those guys say it too.
Yeah.
So they're not, I think that a lot of the guys that I've worked with and the guys we currently do, so it's a piece of the pie. The more you can stay diversified on your leads base, the stronger I believe your business is.
Well, let me expand on what you just said there. So my partner and you're a friend of mine is John Grubb. John Grubb does AdWords management, pay-per-click, and he will be the first to tell you, if you're relying on this to be your foundation for all your sales force, you're going to be sadly mistaken, and you're probably throwing a lot of money down. It ties into you have to do a lot of other things right. It ties into your public relations and how, your social media interactivity, your brand and your reviews. I mean, there's just so many components, but he said, if all of it doesn't work, the one part doesn't work very well. So, but he also says that you have to constantly watch Google and YouTube and Facebook. They change their algorithms almost monthly now. So what worked last year isn't working. And I would say, and again, John's always been very honest with me. He said, if your social media management team, if your pay-per-click team or whoever's doing your marketing isn't telling you that, then you might not have the right team. They're trying to sell you on this is a fix. But John has told me before that if your website's not driving and converting, it doesn't matter how much you pay for AdWords and things like that. So it's a tricky algorithm and cocktail of different things. So, relationships are great. So go ahead.
No, that's what we've worked on for a long time, and building those long-term relationships with people that, we just don't build it with the end user.
Yeah.
But it's been a good model so far.
The same topic. I just made a YouTube video, put it out 2 or 3 days ago on lead generation, talking about the different types. There's pay for leads through a lead generation company that has like a ghost website. You've got plumbing agents. There's lots and lots and lots of choices for where you can get your leads, and they all have their own idiosyncrasies and complexities and their successes in some areas where they're not great, but you can't depend on just one. You can't depend on all your work being from plumbers and all your work being from agents. The funny thing about
or all from programs. I don't mean to. I'm not trying to beat on that, but I had a buddy that went out of business. 85% of his work came from programs. I hated to see it, and he's a good friend, and to see him go out of business was hard. He got into that groove by the time I had met him. Kind of developed a relationship with him. He was 75-80%. That's where he was getting his business, and he just couldn't dig out. And that diversify.
It creates.
Diversify. If you do program work, make it 10 or 15% of your business. Make it a piece of the pie. Don't make it the whole pie. I'm not saying they're bad, because some of them are good.
Yeah.
Just make it a piece of it. Don't make it your overall business model, because I think in this industry, at least, that business model typically doesn't work out well.
And another thing, if you do get on programs, don't bitch about it. You agreed to do it. It's their rules.
Yeah.
They're holding the keys to the kingdom. make a plan, get off of it. But I see the same things. I did an on-site 2 years ago with a company, a really big company, $18 million a year. They were 80% program. Their overhead had grown to such an exploded amount that they couldn't just get off of programs at that point. They would have to start laying. They had 30 people that were overhead related in their office from an administrative level just to keep compliant on all the programs they're on. Mm-hmm. Those people would have to go away, and this person's like, I have to let go of 30 people that have families, and it's just, it's just a rat race. And I really, again, I'm not like, insurance companies that have their own business models, but the people that I want to see successful, because the work that we do in homes, I want to see more restoration companies doing good work. And they need good business sense, not just drying, not just cleaning, not just marketing. It's a whole. Well, it's a whole everything.
I think you hit on a big point there. My background, I started at Stanley Steamer in 1999. I was a carpet cleaner. Mm-hmm. Before that, I was a plumber out of high school, and so when we started this company, I was just a carpet cleaner that felt like I could go get some carpet cleaning jobs. And I never went to college. I never went to nothing. And so the business side of it, I'd say I didn't truly understand the business side of it like I truly needed to. I would say till probably 3 years ago is when I really, truly saw the whole thing, because all I did for 15 years, all I wanted to do was make sure there was cash in the bank and go do the next job.
Yeah.
And that's all I did was just churn and burn. And I didn't focus on the business side like I needed to. And if there's anything I'd tell somebody, you got to balance that.
You do.
You got to balance that. You got to understand your numbers. You got to know your numbers. We know our numbers in our business inside and out right now, like I've never known before. And it's changed our business 100%. You can't just not know your numbers. Even if you're doing 5 water damages a month, you need to know every single one of those dollars and where they went.
Amen, brother.
Sound advice.
And that's obviously why, I've traveled everywhere. I've done all the biggest jobs I could ever imagine. I actually just got tired of it. And I got into this smaller and medium size part of it in the residential. And I just saw the need of how many people that do great work, drying wise, have all the education, best practices, but they won't be in business long enough to do more of that good work. So that's just why I found my need and what Toby and I are passionate about, seeing people have conversations like what you just said. It's like, it's almost like a feel. You almost sense it when you're not financially strong for a month. There's just something internally. You actually just start to sense it, right? You just feel it. It's not. You don't need. You'll see the spreadsheet and the P&L and your balance sheet, and it'll back up what you already sensed. But you felt something was off, something was down. Maybe you took too many leads from a non-profitable thing or something or another. But that's great. Well, going back to Angie, he talks about how much she adds to the business, but she also videotapes him vacuuming their patio.
Really, dude. Really.
We'll cut that piece out. You gave me like 3 bullet points. Yeah.
We were going to talk about.
Well, I always
let me tell you, one of those 3 bullet points had nothing to do with me vacuuming concrete.
Well, we're gonna cut that out.
No, you can leave it in there. It's all good. I spilled a little charcoal, and I didn't want to go to the barn and get my blower, so I just,
vacuumed concrete.
And I turned around, and she's like, I got it. And I was like, she's like, I'm posting it. She shuts the door and locks it. I'm like, you woman. And I was like, seriously, don't post it. She goes, I already did. And I'm like, you are something else,
That's what they're good at.
Hey,
they're good at embarrassing us.
I love her.
Yeah. My wife
I love her. She does a great job of it.
She does. My wife posted on her Facebook the other day, we met 18 years ago. She's going to kill me. 18 or 19 years ago, like 2 days ago. And she spilled her drink in my lap. And she was just telling the story on her post about how she met the love of her life by spilling Jack and Coke in my lap. And then later, somebody that was there chimed in and said, but didn't Clark get you drunk so that you would spill a drink? And she's like, well, I wasn't going to put that in there. So, but they are the reason we do these things, right? So, hey,
yes, they are.
I was just sitting here thinking about while you were talking, my Dewald hat got crooked. I was remembering, you and I have a lot of funny stories. Bend, Oregon was great. Me, you, and Doug Distel at playing pool and couple of bottles of. Whew, I haven't drank like that since then. We had a lot of alcohol that night, but we had a good time. And
Doug is. I'm proud of Doug. That boy has gotten really healthy, and
he has.
He's doing good. I got to see him in Indy this year, just a few months ago, and but back then, buddy, and he'll say it. Trying to go at him at the bar was a tough feat. I felt it.
Well,
and I definitely didn't win. I can tell you that.
No,
much,
but
he's a great guy.
Doug has he's probably lost 200 pounds. He had to. It saved his life.
So,
he had
incredible.
To.
Yeah, so happy for him.
Yeah, Doug works for United Rentals, and he's one of our sponsors at Large Loss Mastery with Tom and I, and he and Brad are just phenomenal guys. But that guy, he pushed hard. He burned the candle. So we had been to Oregon. We've run into each other. We hung around Phoenix one time. Me, you, and Angie went and had dinner, and then we took a road trip going back and forth between Florence and Hurricane Florence and Hurricane Michael in North Carolina and Panama City Beach, and that was always those were always the funniest trips. When
road trips make some good stories.
Pulling the camper road trip. We were in Lillington at Katie's place, and we were heading down. So good times, and I look forward to dozens more that we can have. I think we got a lot more to add to this industry, and I hope we can both have space to do it in. Talking about her,
what's funny about that story too is, and you bring Katie up, like Katie's the circle's so small and it's so awesome, but Ben had been asked to be on that panel at the RA in Phoenix, what you were talking about, and then Katie ultimately met me because we were out there at Florence, right? And that was the first time I ever met Katie. And then Katie's the one that ultimately asked me to be on that panel at Phoenix. That's where I met Chuck. I mean, it kind of goes full circle a little bit there. As you were saying, that just kind of hit me a little bit as that just kind of goes full circle, how those relationships get you to where you are today.
This goes back to that book that I always talk about, The Power of Who.
Power of Who. Yeah,
it's incredible.
He's got a book
about it
that.
Go back to me beating Ben when we were a part of Water Out together, to him saying to Katie, hey, Chris is in Lillington, he can help you with that church project some other contractor was having a challenge with, so we go do that, and then eventually Katie's in charge at the RA, and I'm sitting on a panel, and then it kind of, me and Chuck met out there, and then I went to his class. It's kind of crazy how all that
panel was out. You and Ben and Parker, wasn't it?
Yes, and Chuck was the moderator.
Chuck was the moderator. That was the first time I'd seen Chuck running up and down the aisle with his rag, and he didn't have the bat with him at that point. But relationships get us. I mean, they open so many doors, and when you give before you take, and that's why I love AIR, Chris. Is I get to meet a lot of badasses in this industry, and it's not because I'm people collecting. It's just because how can I give in, and then reciprocity, it's going to come back to you, and it has. And I've had some incredible experiences. I've got a loss that I haven't even told you about that I'll probably be going out to. You know where and it's a big mold remediation on a military installation. So probably have to cut this part out. I probably shouldn't have just said that, but it's going to have unique challenges about getting access out there with hygienists and clearing it and stuff. But I'm really, really having fun trying to dig through those logistics and work on that. So, hey, let's slide real quick, and we can talk more about it. Let's slide into complex and large jobs. And I know you've done it for most of your career, but in the last few years, you've really been able to put yourself in a position to contribute to some incredible losses, right? Some big losses, complex, and things like that. You want to talk about that a little bit? What's your favorite thing you've done?
Yeah. Man, we've kind of starting last June, I guess, a little over a year ago, when the Sears Tower, the Willis Tower, took on water, and we did helped NDT at that loss. I was only there a couple days. Chuck had asked me, if I'd be willing to go out and consult with him on some of these larger projects that he goes on. And for me, I was like, heck yeah, get paid or don't, let's go, and so, I just wanted to learn. And so I spent the last year, a little over a year, we just got back from Philadelphia on another one, but just spent really the last year going around to some of those big projects and working with Chuck and NDT, and some of the contractors have just been great to work with. But boy, are they can be challenging. I would say probably one of my most favorite ones is always the challenging ones. Probably the ones that you don't see as much of, but it was on Facebook a little bit. Paul Schwartz was involved. If you remember Paul Schwartz, he used to be with ServPro, and now he's with Blue Sky. And was the tent project that they did up there when the dam busted in Michigan last summer. When the university came to us and said, "Hey, we need to figure out a way to dry this in place," me and Chuck kind of looked at each other like, "Heck yeah, we do. We need to figure this out, don't we?" And so, we were drying an indoor football stadium, the turf, the sand, and everything down to the slab underneath it, and putting together a plan and a system to put that together. We spent about 10 hours, me and him, inside that dome together, going through that project for that whole day till we presented it. And it was pretty cool. And we presented it, and I had to leave the next day, and Chuck stayed for another day or two to help get it set up the right way. And I ultimately left, and it was a successful project. So, just being able to.
No, we froze up. Hold on a second, everyone. We just, Laney froze right in the perfect face gesture. He's going to love that. Let's see if he comes back here in a moment. Hey there, while we figure out which Zoom black hole that Chris fell into, we want to take this chance to tell you how grateful and honored we are to have a great sponsor for the Disaster Podcaster in Kahi. That's Kahi.io, Kahi. Kahi has developed a really, really badass system for automated asset intelligence and tracking, and also fleet as well as personnel if you want. They got some really cool telemetrics going on over there. Kevin and the team are really, really good at technology and understanding the needs of restorers. He's been a lifelong restorer. They would love for you to give them a call, check it out, track your equipment, don't lose your most important assets and resources, and make sure you know where everything is, including your fleet. So check out Kahi.io. Thanks, guys. Yeah, we were just transitioning in, and I just was hoping you would come back, but I wanted to keep moving in case you did. You and I are talking about, you and I just finished up talking about larger and complex losses. Now going to storms, and I don't know if you've been down to Ida this year or not in New Orleans. I'm going next week for 2 or 3 days, but the number of people that are now showing up at these storms, picking up projects, things like that. It's just, it's mind boggling. And, this is where I sound like the old guy, back in the day, there was just there was a handful of companies that handled big, large, monsters, and Serpro has really grown their large loss extreme team division. They do a good job. Corey Kappas over there, and Colby, and a couple of guys, and Paul Schwartz. I mean, they've really stepped up their game. But did you see just a lot of just mom and pops out of everywhere in the country just jumping on jobs? I was talking to a large loss guy last week, and he got called from a relationship to a church by a big independent and a consultant. So this church is huge, it's massive, it needs a bunch of work. He walked in the front door, obviously they had a key and go in, and he said there were no less than 45 flyers piled up on the floor. He almost slipped and fell on all these flyers, and some of them, he said, had dollar amounts written on them about what they would do the job for. They hadn't even inspected the job, Chris.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. He sent me a picture of it. Some of them had put like a 1.3 million. They just wrote 1.3 mil. Call me.
Wow.
But you know what? I said, hire him for your sub. Hire him for your subcontractor. Make great margins on that thing. But
because those guys are hustling.
They are. Well, they're hustling, and there's a lot. It's a deep conversation. But I think you and I were going to talk a little about the and I wanted Toby to chime in on this too. They don't recognize the financial and logistical resources it takes to pull off. $1 million, $600,000. It depends on the size of your company. It's all scalable, but Chris, you and I were talking about that, but
these guys are incredible risk takers. Like it blows my mind. They'll run down 200 miles, load up a trailer. They don't really know what they're getting into, but they hear there's good money in storm work. Yeah, there may be good top line, but if you don't know how to do it, you're on the hook.
Yeah, we were talking about
incredible risk,
Chris. We were talking about just let's talk labor for a minute. Let's just talk supplemental staffing. If you need 100, you need 100 people.
Said, oh my.
Yeah, if you need 100 people out there, and listen, you're probably paying $17 to $19 an hour right now for maybe 20, 21. Those guys have
no experience.
Well, no. So no experience for a lot of them. They're just just bodies. But what you've got is you've got 100 people. You've got a burn rate of several dozens of thousands of dollars a week that you have to finance and fund. They want to get paid on Friday. They don't wait net 30. They don't wait till you get paid, right, Chris?
No, they don't. And you have to pay that labor, and you got to pay them every single week. I didn't go down to New Orleans. I've been to myself probably 15 hurricanes in my day, and like you said, the old days, I don't even know if we say that, but when I first started chasing storms in 2004, there was a couple big companies that did that. And now there's just guys everywhere. And I think the biggest thing to learn about those storms is you ultimately at some point need to come home. So make sure that your home business and your home base is taken care of while you're on the road. But on the labor side, the project me and Chuck just consulted on out east had 700 people on it for 2 weeks. So I can tell you this, my company can't afford to do that job. And you need to be able to recognize some of those things when you walk into those jobs and have partnerships in place when you get to those jobs. I mean, the fuel bill alone on some of the gear is extremely expensive, and to run all the generators, and just think of, like you said, just the labor alone, putting all in proper hard hats, safety vests, gloves, safety glasses, everything that you need in place to oversee any temporary workers coming in, food, housing, restrooms. I mean, fencing, just everything that you don't really totally think about all the time. But, I focus now on the consulting side that we've done. We focus so much on the gear side and the science side and the equipment side of it, and setting some of these cool jobs up. And just that side of it alone, just your rental bill, like the rental company needs to get paid.
Yeah.
They rented you the equipment. They brought the equipment in. They have these assets that they financially put money on the line, and they got to get paid. You get paid or not, they need to get paid.
Yeah.
And so you are exactly what Toby said, extreme risk takers. My company, we did go down to Dallas, but we didn't travel during Ida this year. We weren't prepared. We weren't ready. We were ready to handle the workload we had at home, and boy, are we glad we stayed home, because we got really, really busy.
Yeah.
And we were able to take care of the house. We did every single job that came in, but we were swamped. And you got to take care of the house. You're ultimately going to come back to it. It's fun to go chase those jobs for 3 months.
Well,
but you got 9 more months that you got to, those storms don't happen every single year. I know they have the last few years, but building a business model around them only is you got to have some deep pockets to do that.
We have a client that this year, they had success last year in doing this, and they did again, but they really had invested at their home base a lot into their marketing locally. Relationships, like we talked about at the first of this podcast, were really producing some great losses and opportunities. And they just loaded up and pretty much sent the whole cavalry to New Jersey, New York. And it will affect you back home, because your phone's going to ring, like you said you would always be there. When you can't help them, they're going to call the next person that's dropping donuts off or cards or building their relationship, and they might fall in love with that party. So really caution. Let me go back for just a minute. I'd like to throw this in. I don't think Toby knows this. Let's talk about fuel for a minute. A 1 meg generator. 1 meg generator needs to run usually a power up a building, a hospital, or a big section of school, or a lot of big bundle of equipment. People used to say, what does it cost to rent a 1 meg? And I said, I wouldn't worry about the cost of the rental of the 1 meg. I'd worry about the fuel. So a 1 meg,
The fuel is a multiple.
it's a multiple.
The fuel is a multiple on top of the rental per day.
Yeah. So just for consumption rate, a 1 meg, I'm going off of memory here. I'm probably going to be wrong by 5% here and there. A 1 meg at 85% load capacity, which is where you should be limiting it, it will burn 62 gallons of diesel per hour. Multiply that by 24 hours, it's running around the clock at about $6 a gallon delivered. We're talking around $10,000 to $11,000 a day in fuel, and that's just the fuel consumption. And then, of course, by the way, if you call my buddy Moffitt or Suncoast, if you don't have credit with them, they're running a credit card when they drop that stuff off. It's not like, hey, we'll pay you in a couple of months. You know, like you said, though, if you don't know how to contract these jobs, if you don't know how to ask for some money for mobilization, you know, it takes a lot. And I watch a lot of well-intentioned, somebody here said modern-day gold prospectors on the thing. There's a lot of people well-intentioned. And yes, the problem is there have been people who have gone and put a lot of money in the bank by mixing what they know with some really, really good fortune. But that's not the case for everybody. And we see that on these boards.
Right.
Like, you know, what do? I'm getting back after being gone from, you know, Ida for 3-4 weeks, and now I'm going to start invoicing. If you're just now invoicing, you're waiting 3 or 4 months to get paid. You should have been setting that up. So I just want people to know that you can make and build an incredible business at home and not go to storms. And because listen, you go to storms, you make a lot, but you're going to spend a lot. It's still in scale. It's still top line, bottom line, like Toby said. But you know, everybody wants the FOMO. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm missing out. I want the." And listen, if you want experience, you know, I know Chris is. Go down there and buddy up with somebody. You know, and say, "Hey, I'd like some exposure. I don't want all the liability, but let me be a PM on a job. Let me bring some of my equipment and supplement what you've got. Or, you know, participate in it." But that's how you get your feet wet, and don't just
be the guy that gets paid every week.
Yeah, be the guy that gets paid. The second tier guy that gets paid all the time.
I did most storms that we did. We were a subcontractor for other larger restoration contractors. Outside of Sandy, that's exactly what we did on every storm. So build those relationships. And when we went, there was times that I brought half of another company with us to be subcontractors together. We would finance it together under another company. So, I mean, there's a lot of pieces to those puzzles, but, you know, ultimately, I can't say it enough. You got to protect home base. And when you say that one company packed up and left, there's times that I've heard companies pack up, not their whole company, but they've worked on building these relationships. And then when they find out you just left to go chase the storm, they don't want to refer you work because they feel, well, we heard you were out of town.
Yep.
Even though you only sent 2 crews and you got 6 or whatever, you left people at home.
Yep.
But word on the street is that, you know, Clark's Restoration just went down chasing the storm. So looks like they don't care about us anymore. Sometimes it's just a perceived notion of what you're doing. And, or have you discussed these things with their management team? Do these referring parties know that that is a part of your business model, that you do that? But whenever that occurs, if you ever hear that we're leaving, we always leave enough people at home. We never take our full crew on the road. You have to communicate those things with those people that you did spend that last 9 months trying to build that relationship since you've been back from that last storm. And, you know, that was where we were at this year. We're still at the same amount of employees we had all of last year, and we've been trying to grow. We've been, you know, having a challenge hiring like a lot of people have. And that's why we didn't go.
Yeah.
Really, to be honest, because we weren't able to supplement our staff here to be able to do that. And so, but yes, there is money to be made. Yes, guys go down there and hit $1 million, $2 million, $3 million jobs. Absolutely, they do well. They get paid. Is it 95% of guys? Not even close.
No.
And so, you know, just realize that those big players, you know, the NDTs, the Uniteds, the Sunbelts now, that bought MDT, all those big players, and then the big restoration companies, the Cottons, the Belfours, the Interstates, the BMS Cats, all those guys. People don't realize that are companies my size that haven't had maybe some of the exposure I have. They don't realize how financially sound those companies are, what kind of structure they have in place, and how many people are working behind the scenes to put that whole entire thing together. I've had large loss guys that really, what I say, do large loss. I say, they call us for $5 million drying projects over the last year and a half. I mean, they can flip a switch and have 1,000 people in 48 hours. I couldn't even fathom being able to make that call. And we're a pretty good sized restoration company for a small mid-market. Guys that are doing $3 to $5 million a year in sales would struggle to even think about making those calls.
The math doesn't work.
My thing is don't go into that one job. Don't try to hit a home run all the time on that one job and feel like you're going to be drying the Vatican or the White House. Like, just plug away each and every day. There's a lot of work to be had. We've done a lot of complex losses in our own backyard.
Yep.
I mean, we dry pretty much, a lot of the school systems around here, those types of, the gym floors, all those things. If they get wet, typically we're getting involved. We've built those relationships over long periods of time. I want the complex losses in my backyard. You want profitability? Try to do those losses in your backyard.
Right.
Don't do them on the road. And they're,
well, you take care of those.
I've done it a lot.
You take care of those people in your backyard, they're going to take care of you, and I think that's it. But you're talking about making those calls. You're right. It's just you can't fathom that in March these companies are already starting to get their financial ducks in a row to get ready for September. But I was working for then called Interstate, and we were at the BP oil spill, and we had a 3-week ramp up to 1,800 people. And just to put that together with housing, food, logistics, our burn rate was ridiculous. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the biggest projects we did in Lake Charles, we were driving to that big. You talking about Jumanji's earlier? That Jumanji we did, that big project we did in Dallas. We're driving to that project, and the gentleman I was with gets a phone call about a very large check that they hadn't received, and we're in Dallas for jobs that were done in Lake Charles. They hadn't been paid yet. That's September, and it was February.
Yeah,
a large, it's not all pretty. Go float that.
Yeah,
whatever that is. If it's hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, very, very challenging to be able to operate a business like that. For small, the small restoration contractors, the guys that kind of, going back to what you said, that we were meeting with out in Bend, the guys that, kind of formed, some of these groups and started to, try to move the needle in our industry in the right direction together. And just smaller independent type contractors, I was meeting all over the country, and those guys couldn't go do what those guys do. So Don't be afraid to, have a relationship with somebody you can bring in. You can still work on that job. You can still do that job. Let somebody take the lead, take a piece of the pie, put on all the equipment that you have, put on all the labor that you have, but let somebody else financially, run that ship. And in the end, you'll be more profitable. Don't always have to be that guy. We always tell everybody at the school, you get the large loss, you get the complex loss. Can you handle it? Yeah, you can handle it. Make sure you call the right people in and have those relationships up front. So when you do get that big job, you pick the phone up and call those guys, and the cavalry's coming to help you. It's, but you got to have those relationships in place with those people that are willing to, just like you said, the Moffats, the Suncoast, those guys. I mean,
you got those guys got to pick up your phone. They won't.
Can't go
ahead. They won't answer your phone if they don't know you.
No, they already have enough relationships in place to supply all their stuff. There's guys, that are taking Suncoast trucks, and they're just on their jobs, one truck. So I mean, it's a different game.
Well, you know what? Luckily, Chris,
it is challenging.
I will say this, and we had 4 people watching. I hope, because this is how I got to where I'm at, and I know you, I hope people realize that this sound and sage advice that people are hearing from people like you and I right now, just because we've done it and we don't want to see people do it again, that's worth a lot. I mean, I somebody else failed before me and told me what to avoid. I still made some of them. I didn't listen to them. But I want people to know that if you've got someone pouring into you with some good advice, take it. I still do it today. I got people that I have to refer to for things I don't know. But let's do this. Chris. We're going to wrap up in a few seconds here, but we've got a couple people watching, and we got the comments. They can't speak, of course. But if anybody has any questions for Chris or Toby or me, I don't know what I could add to. But if you have any questions, I see modern day gold prospectors. I kind of like that. I can see Chuck out there with a pickaxe and chipping away and doing.
Maybe you should carry that up on stage instead of the bat.
You should carry that on stage and do the bat. But you haven't met Chuck yet, have you?
Not yet.
No. Yeah, he would have. He's interesting. Listen, I don't know if anybody's going to chime in, but listen, man, I'm proud of you. I'm proud to know you and Angie. And listen, beyond being a good restoration guy and educator, you're a great parent. You and your kids have a whole lot of fun. You've got some great daughters and really stellar, successful people. You and I talked a lot last week about some stuff they're doing with special needs kids. That's just character stuff, man. I'm just really proud to know you, and I appreciate you coming on to our call today. And you always know that anything you need, it's just a phone number away.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it from you. Everything you've done and the dedication you've had to some guys looked at it and say, oh, it's got to be, an independent versus franchise. It was all types of companies that you were working with, that you were helping, that we were all, working on all this together with. And I can't thank you enough for all your dedication to the industry, everything you've brought, your family, the time away from your family.
Yeah.
It's been really cool to see. And, it's one thing I remember saying, I don't know whoever said it first or where it came from, but I remember us talking about it, said, we just got to keep moving the needle.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can truly say that I feel that we're moving the needle for all material interested parties in the right way. And that ultimately will be a win-win. So I look forward to the things that are coming and where the industry's going and being a part of it, and just helping other guys and helping our clients. So I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Imagine what we can do with what we've done so far. I think the best is yet to come, Chris. I think we, you have it. We're releasing some information now about AIR coming up pretty soon. You talk about, the independent part of AIR, the Alliance for Independent Restorers, get somebody hung up. We have now a leadership council, and 3 of those leaders are franchise. Chris Jeter, and several others, and I'm colorblind to the color of your van and your vehicle. As long as you're doing good work, it doesn't matter. But we're doing some good stuff, and talking about, we've got some people there that are trading jobs within AIR, like down at the Storm, bringing in. Let me bring in some help from a brother or a partner, and that's that's just opportunity. So, well, listen, you had no questions for me. Good chat, good form on the vacuuming. You got a 9.9 from Robert Jackson on the vacuuming. The Dyson champion.
Exterior concrete.
Look at him.
Winning.
Listen.
Hey, I just want to know I want to let everybody know that we passed the test on that too. I did testing afterwards. We did the swab samples. We passed the exterior concrete sweeping samples. So
not everybody could do that, Chris.
We pulled the swab and we are good. Not everybody can pass the exterior.
Not everybody can pass the some people can't pass an interior. If you pass an exterior, you get a gold medal from me, man.
Everybody's running out to get Dysons to use on their restoration jobs.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No more HEPA-vacs. We're using Dysons now. I'm gonna get you a new quarter zip because you passed the test. But hey, listen, tell the team hello, tell Chuck hi, and we'll talk to you real soon. Are you sleeping? We lost him.
We lost him.
Well, listen, it's great. The great Chris Laney. We actually were hoping that Chuck could call in. He was texting him, but Chuck was busy. So, Chuck, if you're watching, man, I want to get you on the call in the next few episodes, and let's talk about the next one. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Robert. Everybody else that was watching live, and everybody else that zooms and chimes in later on the podcast. Let us know in the comments what you need to know. Go check out Dewald Drying Academy.
Check out the podcast, restorationadvisor.com/podcast.
Disaster Podcaster.
Disaster Podcaster.
Yeah, it's not hard to find. Spotify, Apple, whatever. Have a great week. Let's get ready for winter. Do well. Take care of yourself. See you.